More and more businesses are coming to the city of Goose Creek. Today, I talk one-on-one with the city's Economic Development Director, Matt Brady, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Matt Brady, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quintin. It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
You're very welcome. Obviously, you're the Economic Development Director for the city of Goose Creek. Let me just ask you this, Matt. What is the state of Goose Creek right now?
We're busy, Quintin. I think that a lot of pent-up activity that maybe COVID had tamped down a little bit is now headed our way. We've had a lot of commercial investors and real estate folks, which is what I primarily deal with. Kind of interested in Goose Creek. We are continue to kind of work with our partners like the county, CRDA, all those folks to work with industrial and light industrial, and the city generally is just busy. We continue to grow at about a rate of 2% a year, and we're just in the thick of everything, just like everybody in the Low Country.
And, you talked earlier about those pent-up activities, obviously during COVID. How did that affect Goose Creek, and which way?
So, about this time last year, or a little earlier, you recall, everybody was still trying to figure out what we thought COVID was, what it was going to do to the economy and things like that. So we have been fortunate to not have been dinged too bad in terms of business closings and things like that that are directly related to COVID. But City Council did establish a program called Kickstart the Creek last year, which was a partnership with Charleston LDC. They've been great partners, and we set aside some money out of our general fund to provide low-interest working capital loans to businesses in town that have been affected by COVID, and that may need either additional funds from the PPP or maybe did not have access to PPP for whatever the variety of reasons were. So we've given those out to a couple of businesses, and that has been a successful program, we think. As we sort of emerge from COVID, I think businesses are starting to really pick up. The restrictions are, sort of going away, especially in the food and bev world and commercial retail. So we survived it pretty good. And right now, like a lot of cities, we're trying to plan for what's next. We do have American Recovery Plan funds that are coming down, just like every municipality in our region, and so staff and ultimately council are trying to be strategic about how we expend those funds in a way that will be, transformative, have a big impact, because these are non-recurring funds. So we want to find a way to spend these dollars in a way that really helps to create the Goose Creek and the momentum that we'd like to see.
How do you, just divide that money up?
It's interesting. We are figuring that out ourselves right now. Our plan is to, as some of the senior staff folks sort of come to the table, start discussing with each other and probably Mayor Habib some of the ideas that we have. And the federal government did issue guidance. And there are a lot of groups out there like the National League of Cities and the Municipal Association of South Carolina who are trying to help us make sure that we spend this money within those guidelines. So we're trying to be creative. In a way, it's a wish list that staff may have had over time. Like, if I only had these funds, maybe we could do XYZ projects. So we are figuring that out, but we are all kind of bringing our, level of expertise and our perspective together to try to figure out how we spend those dollars.
What will be that perspective, economically 5-10 years from now?
Well, some of the things we're talking about that I think we'll do regardless of the stimulus funds. We're probably going to establish a development corporation that will be able to do creative things, such as potentially, this is all sort of preliminary, but acquire properties, sell properties, help businesses in different creative ways. Some of the other things we've kicked around is building space for maybe to house all of our building, planning, zoning functions all under one roof. We've even talked about creating some co-working space or a business incubator space. So those are some of the things that kind of come from my economic development perspective. But we're also looking at infrastructure projects, which is explicitly mentioned as something we would do or is allowable under these guidelines. So it kind of runs the gamut of city services. But again, we want to be creative because, even we were in a meeting earlier today, the mayor was talking about, recurring versus non-recurring funds, stuff that we do as a city every day that we expend tax dollars that we collect from the residents, from businesses, such as, buying vehicles or things like that, typical services. We don't necessarily want to spend these one-time recovery dollars on. So that's sort of where we are, the conundrum, if you will, trying to figure out how we can best spend these dollars and create the most impact.
Yes, sir. And I'm so sorry about the Wi-Fi delay there, but let me ask you this: what's the economic overview when you look over Goose Creek?
If you mean sort of like how it's shaken out from just a general like how's the city doing, we are doing pretty well. I think a lot of the folks in the Low Country are doing okay in terms of economics. We have healthy growth, both in terms of residents and in terms of businesses. We continue to see new businesses open. We have a lot of sort of in the pipeline commercial developments that we hope to be able to talk about and announce once those get firmed up, and that's sort of all over the city. A lot of people who are looking to invest or build or develop see the city right now, and they contact us a lot about opportunities here because we are in geographically a very advantageous part of the world. We're a high growth part of Charleston, but we still are pretty affordable. And that's sort of been one of our bread and butter attributes the entire time. They're about equidistant between Boeing and Volvo. So when it makes sense, we do work with our other economic development partners to create job creating opportunities here within our Crowfield corporate part, but wherever it makes sense nearby so that our people can live where they work. And it's I don't want to be too sunshine and rainbows about this, but we're doing pretty well here, and I think we're going to continue to do that. Our challenge will be over the next 12, 18, 36, 48 months to make sure that we prepare and work with the growth that is occurring to get things that enhance the quality of life for the city of Goose Creek. We recently rolled out our new 10-year comprehensive plan. It talks a lot about land use. It talks a lot about adjusting the way that we do set policy. It talks about some sustainability initiatives. It talks about a lot about economic development, which is also a priority of City Council right now. So Goose Creek is doing well right now. We are sort of poised to do well, I would say, over the next several years. But we want to stay progressive in terms of how we set policies. We want to stay proactive about recruiting folks, but also about how we sort of manage our day-to-day operations. That was a long answer, but we've got a lot going on, and it's all pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And when I interviewed you for Quintin School Subs down the street here last September, you talked about obviously businesses, and you just talked about obviously new businesses coming into the city. How many businesses from September of last year to right now have actually come into the city of Goose Creek that are relatively new?
That I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I would say it would be in the dozens. We have a lot of activity right now up at Carnes Crossroads.
Oh yes.
It's there are some new developments coming online right now, and we continue to work with businesses in our other kind of commercial corridors. Sorry, I don't have a real number for you, but we do continue to see growth in both the number of businesses and sort of the retail receipts that we see over a year.
Wow. What are those retail receipts?
Well, by that I mean the basically the number that we get in tax revenue from retail, and I am sort of drawing a blank. I think it's just shy of $1 billion right now, though. So our neighbors to the south, North Charleston, they kind of have the largest retail tax base in the state, but we are steadily growing and continue to grow. Sorry, I should have that number memorized, but we are still working on probably when you and I first talked, I probably talked about leakage.
Right.
And so what that is money leaving your community, and it really creates an opportunity for businesses to come in here. So we're looking for partners to help us recruit restaurants, commercial activities, because what it basically shows us is that folks are leaving Goose Creeks. They continue to leave Goose Creek to go eat, to go shop, go dine, go do all the fun stuff that we think we could capture reasonably here. And so there's about a total leakage of around $390 million a year. So that's what we're still working on.
Yes, sir. And what is your plan for that, to stop that leakage?
Well, there's a couple of things. We are looking to continue recruiting businesses. Unfortunately, a lot of the visits that I was able to typically make, or even going to conferences and things like that, it froze up over COVID. Things are just now starting to thaw out. There are some trips that we can start to schedule. So there is that. But one of the things that we try to consistently do is make the ground fertile for new businesses to expand or locate here. So making it as efficient as possible to get through our processes. I sort of serve as an ombudsman to the business community that is here and that might come in here. So helping them all along the way, and to just get the word out about what we're doing, the properties that are available. And I'll plug now, we launched a new website about a week or 10 days ago, businessinthecreek.com. And so that takes all of the economic development functions and puts them under one URL. And so you can do everything from just learning statistics about us to seeing the available commercial properties in town to finding a way to get in touch with me to finding out about grant or loan opportunities all in one place. So that's another way we do it. And so we continue to try to find ways to be creative. As I'm a department of one, but we all work pretty tightly together to achieve these goals. And so much of what the city does right now aligns back to increasing economic activity. So it's, while I'm a department of one, I have a team that we all work together up and down our organizational structure.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this too, Matt. What are those different economic development strategies that are actually needed for different parts of the city?
We do have parts of our city have different sort of identities, So St. James Avenue is a major retail and commercial corridor. So what we are really working on there is infill development. That's where our brewery that's set to open in July, finally after a lot of work that's in that corridor. So that's, one strategy is the infill and then recruiting as properties change over for there. Another, Red Bank Road is another corridor that we look at, and we're looking at redevelopment opportunities along that corridor. Carnes Crossroads is sort of on fire, and the city at that juncture just works to be helpful where we're needed. All of these sort of go back to trying to find creative ways to market the city, to go out and visit with potential investors. And we even, the mayor just went through the Riley Mayoral Design Fellowship. That was last week. And what that program is, some of your viewers are probably very familiar with it, but it is a partnership with a lot of different land use experts, where mayors of cities in South Carolina take an issue related to land use or a problem or whatever you want to frame it like, and let the experts kind of workshop that and offer some solutions. And so our Mayor Habib went and talked about the Central Park property, which is about 47 acres in the middle of our commercial corridor. So that's going to be something that over the next several months, once we get their report and their suggestions, we'll think about how to market that potentially. So I feel like I've given you a long answer to maybe a simple question, but each little area and each little project has a personality of its own. And years ago, sort of a development government person I admire talked about how their city worked on economic development one project at a time. And so that's how we sort of take it. We do have a comprehensive look at where we want to go with the city, but each project's different. Each project takes some potential hand-holding and navigation through processes and deal-making, and that's what I'm here to do.
Sir, I'm sitting right around the corner from Chipotle here in downtown Charleston. What is the status on that Goose Creek?
So Chipotle has signed a lease with one of the folks that have invested in the city of Goose Creek. They are looking to open, hopefully, the last quarter of this year, the first quarter of next year. For that project to sort of take off, there needs to be demolition of a building and the construction of a new building to go vertical. So at this point, it's just a matter of going through. I think they've cleared all the hurdles they need with terms of design review from us. So it's just a matter of knocking the building down and getting it put back up, and that should happen sometime here soon this summer. The knocking down and the building back up.
Yes, sir. And you talked about those processes, obviously, when it comes to land use and whatnot. How has that been affected by COVID?
So when COVID first came in, we, like many of our counterparts here across the country, took review and approvals processes to virtual, just like you and I are doing right now. So Zoom meetings and things like that. But we did not slow down. We were able to continue working, and it's really been, in some ways has made it easier for public participation, for developer participation, because you do everything online as opposed to coming to one central location. So COVID did necessitate us doing that. But in terms of, land use and development, it really it's picking back up right now, I would say. But it hasn't really slowed down because we made the necessary adjustments so that, someone would not be stuck with 3 or 4 months of holding a piece of property that they couldn't do anything on. So we all had to sort of drop back and punt a little bit, but we quickly got back in action, and that's sort of how we dealt with it. I will say, if we had construction going on, and we needed some sort of like a water inspection or an inspection from our building folks. We just followed the protocols that the city put in place about masks and social distancing and things like that. We're able to get through it.
Yes, sir. And how is the city helping to retain and expand existing businesses in Goose Creek?
I think it depends on which businesses we're looking at. Like I said, we did start the Kickstart the Creek program. We sort of serve as a central hub to a lot of business service organizations, and we kind of think of ourselves, economic development department, as a business service organization as well. So, if someone needs maybe a business plan, we are able to connect them with resources from the Small Business Development Center. If someone needs gap financing or access to capital, we know a lot of folks in the banking and finance world, but we also know folks at partners like Charleston LDC, Community Loan Fund, places like that. With existing and expanding businesses, we try to check in pretty regularly, especially with our larger employers, and see if they need anything from us, if they need anything from the county, if they're looking to expand, if we can do anything better. So that part is a lot about relationships and just trying to be easy to get along with and easy to access us, so that as businesses need resources, we're able to get them to them.
And how do you attract professional firms that can actually locate and work from anywhere?
Well, that's sort of like the brave new world, I guess. Folks who can truly work from anywhere, but want anywhere from a small town feel to a place our size. The Mayor B talks about we're not a small town, but we're still a hometown, and so we are. A lot of folks are trying to figure that out, how we can attract folks who can work right from their home. We are actively always trying to court and work with folks to build Class A office space in Goose Creek to get professional firms. But truly, economic development, generally, it's one of its new horizons will be to figure out how to get that high level of talent into their community that can truly work from anywhere, what makes their community, the place where they can work from. So I think just by virtue of our proximity to a lot of amenities, we have great schools, we have great housing prices, and sort of the infrastructure that most folks need in terms of quick internet and other access to transportation, things like that. I think we're attractive. But that's going to be sort of the next phase of what every community does, is figure out how to attract those folks.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, Matt, where in Goose Creek do you want to enhance broadband?
Well, broadband is something that the recovery plan speaks to specifically. We would, anywhere that we can enhance broadband is good. So throughout the community, I don't have a particular place, but the city itself is sort of prohibited from establishing, like a broadband utility ourselves. So I think we'll continue to work with our private industry partners to bolster that wherever there may be any gaps. So throughout the city is where we need to do it.
And what are the top factors for investment, obviously, decisions when it comes to Goose Creek?
Well, it'll probably come down to profitability for someone who is looking to invest. So they'll look at our demographics first and foremost, and that would be from a larger national or regional tenant, or also a mom and pop who is looking to invest in a store or a restaurant. So they'll see if what the folks that live here in Goose Creek, and specifically close to whatever location may be, are the folks that they think will shop or dine at their facility. So that's thing one. The cost to invest is another factor that people are going to look at. The cost of the property, or the cost of a lease, cost of a piece of land. Um, and then sort of the X factor that I think Goose Creek can compete very favorably on is the process cost. How quickly can we get you through all the approvals that you need so that whatever it is that you do as a business, you can get doing, and then have us sort of get out of your way. And I don't mean that disparagingly against, our great staff here or anything, but we want to be efficient and expeditious and very customer service focused. And so I think those three things align, and I think we can always perform well on the customer service and efficiency side.
And you talked earlier about obviously the housing prices being relatively affordable. What is the housing analysis that you are currently looking at?
Goose Creek is still relatively affordable for most folks. Affordable is such a moving target and is a word that is loaded and means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But we feel that we have a lot of price points in the housing stock throughout the city. So no matter what sort of income levels we're looking at, we think that you can afford a very good quality house in the city of Goose Creek. So that is what we think is an attractive part of the city, that we're still affordable and you can still have access to a lot of great amenities.
Absolutely. And I know you're extremely busy, so I got to let you go here in a few minutes. But I jumped ahead to the housing question, but I forgot to ask you this. What are those new investment prospects in Goose Creek?
Well, so we are working with, I know economic development can be so cloak and dagger. So I apologize for no real specifics right now, but we're working on several larger retail, commercial projects that we hope to be able to announce in the next few months, in the pipeline, as they say, but many of them will be sort of adding to the quality of life for the city of Goose Creek that we think our residents will be pretty excited about.
And this is a tough question to ask, Brad, but
okay,
what exactly are the city's strengths and what exactly are the city's weaknesses?
So I think our strengths are that geographically we're located in a good place. We have excellent schools. We have excellent services at the city, including recreation, which is very good. And we have affordability in terms of commercial opportunities. The weaknesses are, a lot like other communities, and maybe they can be framed more as opportunities, but we have to make sure that we manage growth in a healthy way. We have to make sure that we are using land wisely to make sure that we do sustainable projects when we build these new things. We also have some challenges related to our growth patterns that exist already. We don't have a true downtown that, when you think of downtowns in our region, you think of, downtown, of course, Charleston, Somerville, Moncks Corner, Park Circle, so we don't have something like that. So a weakness or a challenge or an opportunity is correcting for that, or finding a way to create that urban space that people feel like they're in a downtown. So, but overall, I think we're pretty well positioned. We've got a great staff here. We've got a great council, and we're ready to rock the rest of 21 and roll into 22.
Now, what other growing patterns do you want to focus on next?
Well, so we do have kind of a highway corridor here in like St. James, Highway 52, Red Bank Road. So, like I said, that's a challenge. But so we're focusing on infill development as much as we can. We are interested in what the report will come back to say about Central Park from the Riley Design Fellowship, and we'll kind of go from there. But what we are interested in um, creating a sense of place the best that we can, promoting walkability wherever we can, which is a challenge with the way Goose Creek has sort of grown over the decades. But that's what we're looking to do and find creative ways to do it.
Yeah, because remember when I sent you the direct message, I'm like, hey, I'm right here by CSU. I want to walk to Goose Creek. And I'm like, I don't think
Right.
that's possible.
And it wasn't. And I mean, for your viewers, I was kind of over that way, and I drove back and I saw where the sidewalk ended, and that stuff like that is what we have to think about when we think about these new developments. We have to think about interconnectivity, think about pedestrian use, bike use, in addition to what we build from a motor vehicle. So that's sort of what we're going to have to look at as we continue to build Goose Creek.
Matt Brady, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quintin. It's always a pleasure, man.
Likewise.